So on the last episode of RVs Are Junk, we talked about how this piece right here above the bed came undone. There is quite a bit of water leaking out of the shower here.
You need to approach everything in an RV with that.
I don't know like the proper way to fix it,
Be mindful and you have to be aware.
but I don't know if there is like a proper way, so I'm just gonna do a big sentence.
Flying, something like that. This is part of being an RV owner.
My first time camping in this, probably already past age and tech. About to get the opportunity to learn something new, because with this being my first time owning an RV, I have never winterized or de-winterized an RV before, and I'm ready to get the water up and going in this camper. So we are going to de-winterize this thing. I'm just going off of YouTube videos, the owner's manual, whatever information is in there, and any information I can find, but I've never done this before, and gonna see how it goes, and hopefully I don't mess anything up. If I do something wrong or you catch something that I could have done better or whatever, let me know down in the comments, because I'm not here to make a YouTube channel to be an expert in these things. I'm here to show the real life reality of what it's like to get into something like this and not know what you're doing and just having to figure it out as we go along the way, because that's what 99% of people have to do. So let's go see if we can figure it out. So I started off down over here. We have the low point drains. You can see them right there. I opened both of those up and you can see all of the winterization fluid that came out of there. So started with that. Before I get too ahead of myself, let me make sure I have everything that I think I'm gonna need for setting up the water connection. So I have these 90-degree elbows right here. So I'm likely gonna need those. I have some other water connection stuff in here that's kind of more for an emergency. I probably want to set up the water filter, even though I do not plan to drink out of this water. I think it's still just good to have. I don't know if I'm gonna need this or not really, but I'm just gonna bring everything over there that I think I may need. I have to be careful. It is incredibly windy out here today, and we've already had things blow away a couple different times. I think that's everything that I need right here. I'm not gonna take this water hose because I'm not gonna use that one this time. So let's grab these things here. We have the water connection right here, and then the last thing I need is our water pressure regulator. I don't know where that is. Let me see if I can find that. I don't know where my nicer one is, but this is the one that I got in my starter kit from Blue Compass RV, so I'll go ahead and use this one for now, but I do have a nicer one that lets you actually adjust the water pressure somewhere, and I cannot find it. It's probably a good time to mention, if you're starting out with your first RV and just feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all the things there are to learn, that's understandable. That's kind of how it is. I mean, I've been around RVs for years and years and years, but owning my own RV and taking care of everything myself is still quite the learning process. So be patient with yourself. There's a bunch of different points you're going to want to check on your RV. One of them being like this little metal grate right there going into the water connection. That's going to be pretty important. That can be a point where, you know, this being a brand new RV, it's very clean. But if you're buying a used RV, you've just been RVing in your own RV for a while, this can get blocked up, and that can be a point of problem that you might have for water flowing through. So just check those out. You can pull those out and clean those if you need to. I don't need to here, but just wanted to show you that real quick. Got everything connected here. I have a splitter so I could hook up another hose here if I wanted to do that. Then I have the water pressure regulator. Then I have that going into the filter, and then I have that filter going up to the city/freshwater connection. Now on my trailer, you can see I have this little switch right here, whether I want it to fill the fresh tank or do a city fill, basically meaning you just have water flowing through continuously. And right now we just want this going into the freshwater tank, and we're going to kind of just make sure that water flows through there properly. Now, if I understand correctly, if I could be wrong, I think I have the freshwater tank open down underneath here, so I would expect when we turn this on to see water flowing out of there, but we're going to find out. So let's see. I don't even know where water is going to come out. Okay, let's close that valve. Okay, water is flowing through the system now. And there we go. It is. Okay. Oh, there's the freshwater drain right there. So, okay. So yeah, we're flushing out any stuff coming out of there right now. It looks like that valve might not be open all the way. It also looked like there was some gunk underneath there. It was not clear coming out of there at first. Oh gosh. Okay, so that is open. Okay, so it is flowing through that freshwater area right there. Have no idea if the camera can see, but I think it can. Okay, so freshwater is filling up in that space. Let's close that up, let it build up just for a second, and then let it drain out. So I've been letting it fill up just a little bit. I basically just want to make sure that that's like clean and everything down underneath there. So let's, all right, letting that fill up just a little bit. Essentially just want to make sure it's clean and whatnot in this tank. So we'll open that up, let that drain out. We'll turn the water off. Thanks. Megan said she's proud of me, so I think I'm doing a pretty good job. Okay, so now from here, basically we'll just let that all drain out properly. See that draining out of there. Just let all that water get out. So freshwater tank is good. It did look a little dusty and dirty up in there. Maybe that's just from the dust and dirt it collected just driving down the road through that valve there on the bottom. But now it looks clean and clear coming out of there. We'll let all that drain out. And then we'll move on to the next step. Now, there's a couple different reasons for doing that step. One, I was just trying to make sure I knew how it works. But two, if you're doing this process year in and year out, that's also going to just get out any stagnant water that might be sitting in the water lines between like where you hook the water up to the camper going into that tank. So it can get any stagnant water out of there and make sure you're all clean and good to go. Next step is going to be shutting all the water off, because it does say like in the owner's manuals not to switch over from the tank fill to the city water valve. So this right here, it says not to switch this over while there is water pressure going through there. So we're going to turn off all the water, switch that over, and then we will start running water through the camper and start flushing out different water lines inside the camper. So I did that step. I shut off all the water. I got this in the city water spot right there. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when I turn this water on. Hopefully everything goes good. This is just another one of those things I'm curious to test, because a lot of people, you know, claim that they just have water line failures and stuff like that as soon as they go to use their water for the first time in a camper. Obviously, we hope that's not the case, but it's going to be our first time running water through here, so we're going to find out. Got the water on. Let's go see through here. Oh, I forgot to close these other water lines. Okay, so now that's sending water. Well, this is good. It's flushing everything out of here, which we actually need that. Okay, so now sending it through the city water, it's flushing out the cold and hot water lines here. And you can actually see there is pink antifreeze fluid still coming out of there. So we're going to let this run now until that is all clear underneath here and it's no longer pink like what we're seeing. And everything looks good there. Gonna be extra safe, so I'm gonna shut off the water at the pump again, and then I'm gonna climb down underneath here and shut these valves closed after water stops running out of these here. The hot water valve stopped running a lot quicker than the cold water valve. However, the hot water valve took a lot longer to run out of the antifreeze fluid than the cold water valve. So I got those closed up. Now let's go turn the water back on again and see what happens and hope there's no water leaks. So back over here, flip this up, and let's go see what happens. And coming inside, did not know the shower was going to be on, but the shower was already on. So water's going out of the shower though. It's working. It's filling up our gray tank now. Unfortunately, I don't know how much water got in there, but all the antifreeze fluid is out. Get it off the floor here. And we're good to go on the shower. Now, my thought is you would just do this to basically every water line, and you should be good. So I'm going to double check and make sure that's the case. Now, watching RV Tips and Travels YouTube video on YouTube on this process, he took this water line here, which essentially is just going to have antifreeze fluid in it. And, oh gosh, it's hard to film in here. It's saying to take this hose and run water through it, like connect it to water. I'm going to open it up and see if there's even any antifreeze fluid in here. But this can have antifreeze fluid in here because this is what they put the antifreeze fluid through to get it pumped through the system. So you can flush this out just to make sure that no antifreeze fluid drips down through that valve there unintentionally, and also to make sure that no antifreeze fluid leaks out of this tube at any time. Now, my hose there is empty, so I'm not going to worry about it too much, especially because I don't drink out of my freshwater tank anyways. And I'm not going to drink any water out of these water lines or anything like that. But if I reach back here, one thing I am concerned about is if I ever did need to do that, basically you need to dip this hose in a bucket or something like that to get it into a water source. And then you turn on your water pump with the faucet open and it'll run water through there and get all that excess antifreeze out, or even just any stagnant water or anything like that. And this does not reach all the way outside. I also don't see a way that it's accessible from inside the camper. So you would need, on this camper, you need like a pan of water just sitting in here to pull water from. I don't know exactly how else you do it. I guess, never mind. My Lowe's bucket right there, as you can see back there, it fits in here. So I guess I could fill that up with water and then drop that hose down in there. And that's how I would do that if I was going to do those steps. Some people might sanitize their water lines, which would be something like putting bleach through the water lines to clear out any additional residue or anything like that from the antifreeze. I'm not going to do any of that either because, again, this isn't water that I intend to use for any consumable purposes. So I am just going to bypass that step of sanitizing the water lines right now. Making progress here. Now, I think this water pump here is only going to be like used for the freshwater tank. So I would switch this to there to start sending water through that pump if I'm going to use the freshwater tank. Hopefully y'all can see that there. But I'm not doing that right now. I'm just going through the city water, and then we still have the water on. So everything should be running through the water line. So when I come into different areas inside the camper here, coming through the bedroom, we should start being able to have water run through these lines here. Let's open this up. How does this drain work? There we go. And there we go. Yep. We have water coming through there. And just wait till this runs clean, and we're going to go through and do this with all of the different faucets inside of the RV. Probably even going to do it with the outside spray ports and all of those different things. So anywhere the water comes out of, both hot and cold, we're going to do this step for all of the faucets. Also worth noting, because everyone has me paranoid online that water lines just leak all the time, I'm checking all of the water lines under the sink and going back outside to check the water lines outside to make sure that nothing is leaking. And just a quick plug to Alliance, something cool they do is on their outside water valves. One, they have hot and cold water for all of their outside spray ports here. So that's controlled right here with your hot valve and your cold valve. And also there's 3 spray ports on this Alliance Delta travel trailer. So one on this side, one on the camp side, and one on the back side of this travel trailer here. And of course we cannot forget, because I almost did forget about the toilet. Run this fluid through here until the antifreeze is completely out of the toilet. And one thing I'm going to do at this step too is I know that like there needs to be a decent amount of fluid in the black tank and gray tank and things like that for it even to register in the tank levels. So I'm going to let a decent amount of fluid run into these tanks just so I can kind of get a feel for how much needs to be in there for it to start registering on the tank sensors. Right here we have the tank sensors. You can see the fresh tank is empty, black tank is showing is empty, gray tank is showing is empty, and gray tank 2 is showing is empty. So everything's showing is empty even though there is water in there, but it's because they need to, with this kind of sensor, they need to get to like at least a third full to even start registering on here. And my train of thought is it just kind of makes sense to have a decent amount of liquid in there to begin with, especially if you're going to use the toilet, even just using things like the gray tank, having like some water for debris to fall into and not just
you know, kind of get stuck to the tanks itself, I think sounds like it would be helpful. Obviously, when you're using a toilet, want to use a toilet chemical as well. I have liquefied in here. We're not going to use the toilet for this trip simply because we have a bathhouse just right down the road from us, so it's not really a big deal. But obviously, things that you need to have on board when you go to use your RV. And testing out the water heater, it works. Megan over here. Keeping her feet warm. Water heater works, tankless water heater is good, and I think we're done. I think that's it with the whole water heater setup. Oh my gosh, it is so windy out here. Trying to block the wind because I don't have my mic set up right now. Mics are charging. But I think we're done. I think everything, all the de-winterization fluid is out of everything and we're good to go. I just got done taking a shower for the first time in here, and there is quite a bit of water leaking out of the shower here. Now, obviously I was in the shower, so I couldn't see exactly what was causing this water. I don't know if it was closing the shower curtain or if it was water leaking out while taking a shower or what, but it's leaking all the way up into the sidewall. Big problem, got to fix that really quick. Things you got to be mindful of in an RV. Stuff like this can happen, and now I got to figure out what's causing this one and obviously fixing this so it doesn't cause any damage. In my first attempt to figure out what's going on, just have the shower running and nothing is happening. Everything looks good, including down here, back behind the wall there. You can see all the moisture though in the wood. I have figured out that is definitely water of some sort. Doesn't look like any water is building up underneath here though, while the shower is just running. Upon looking at that further, is that water down underneath there? I can't. I think that's just a change in the wood color, but I did just start to see water start to run down this sidewall a little bit. It's hard to see it right now. It's just a small trace amount. It looks like it might be just running down this area right here. It's really hard to film this. Sorry for it being all disorienting. But I really want to get under here and just make sure, kind of seeing everything clearly down underneath here. Gosh, it stinks seeing all that moisture build up down underneath there. I feel like this is just the problem right here. It seems like water is just building up in this corner and then it's just dripping off the side. It seems like that's the issue, which could just be a problem because we're not perfectly level right now. Could also be a problem. Maybe we need the RV slightly tilting the other direction from what it currently is. But it seems like everything that I can see, it feels like this is the issue. Is there's just water pooling up right here, and that's causing the problem. And it's just dripping down this area right here and pooling up. You can see right in here, that is all water. That slight discoloration is just water right there. That's all moisture. And it seems like it's just running down from right there. Yep, that is the problem. I sprayed water more in this area and look at how much pulled up. Like I just sprayed it towards the corner of the shower. Pushed the shower rod back in or the shower curtain back in. It seems like water is all just dripping down this space. Look at how much is pulling up now. So yeah, I don't know if this is just an issue of being level or needing it to be sealed better, but gonna get this dried up. And then at least I figured out it's not a water leak issue, it's just a water running off problem. And my suspicion is, with this being a plastic two-piece shower, you can see the silicone there. My suspicion is that silicone is just not sealed all the way back to the corner, and it's allowing moisture to kind of pull off back through this area there and keep running beyond where that silicone ends, and thus likely getting to the other side here and kind of spilling out. So seems like that might be the fix. This is, again, just something that can happen in any RV, you know? So these are things that you should be prepared for. It's just something that can happen in an RV, and it's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. It involved removing 4 screws, and then it might involve, you know, applying some silicone or something like that, and that's pretty much it. But owning an RV, you have to be mindful and you have to be aware. The longer I'm in this RV, the more I'm becoming convinced that I think
a lot of serious damage that happens in RVs are from people just being completely mindless and unaware of things to check out. When you take a shower, you need to evaluate the floor around your shower after you take a shower the first few times to make sure that water isn't pooling up and things of that nature. Not to throw Megan under the bus or anything like that, but she doesn't know nearly the amount of things I know about RVs. And if only she took a shower and then I wasn't here to check all these things, it's possible that water might have pooled up. It might have continually been doing that over and over again, taking a shower, and then it just would have been seeping into the wood and could cause the wood or luan there to deteriorate, to acquire mold, so many different things. But I know what to look for. I know these are things that can happen inside of an RV, so I caught it, and now I can fix it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's, you need to approach everything in an RV with that kind of mindset if you want to have a less troublesome experience with your RV. It's not that there's anything wrong with the RV or anything like that. It's just, this is part of being an RV owner. Last little thing to wrap this up, I have my space heater right here, blowing warm air into this cavity right here to get all that moisture out of here. So just doing all I can to make sure this ends up drying out properly, and then we can, try to find a solution for the problem after it's dry. I don't know if I'll get to a solution in this video because I don't even know that I'll use the shower again while we're here. Plus, this is my last day on this trip, so I don't really want to spend my entire last day trying to fix this problem, so it might be a thing to fix for a later time. We're getting packed up and ready to leave, but I think I found the problem here in the shower. Right here, there is a little piece right there where there is no silicone, and I think that is where the water is leaking through. There's just a little gap right there, and to me that would make perfect sense that that would be the source of where the leak is. So when I get back, I'm gonna get some silicone and seal that up, and then when we go on the next trip and have the next segment of RVs or junk, we will see if that solves the problem there.